From Washington, the McLaughlin Group, the American original. For over 3 decades, the sharpest minds, best sources, hardest talk.
Issue 1, a special meeting. Here's the story, just so you understand. There's been no collusion whatsoever. There's been no obstruction whatsoever, and I'm looking forward to it. So said President Trump when asked on Wednesday whether he will meet with special counsel Robert Mueller, who is investigating possible Trump campaign collusion with Russia. Still, the president's amenability to an interview under oath has shocked many a legal mind. They say it carries great risks. And get this, on Thursday, the New York Times reported that Mr. Trump had attempted to fire Mr. Mueller last summer. According to the Times, the president only backed down when his White House counsel, Donald McGahn, threatened to resign.
Question, Pat. With this latest story in terms of the Mueller investigation, the timeline, the president's fury, what do you see happening next?
I think if the president's lawyers are any good and they don't want to be disbarred, they will keep him out of this perjury trap that's being set up for him. The point here is the Mueller's investigators have all this information. They've interviewed people. They've got hours of testimony. They want to walk in and then ask the president one after another question. And the probability is, given his defiance and his disputatious nature, he'll be denying this and arguing that it's a perjury trap. He ought to do as little as possible. He ought to get written interrogation, and he ought to answer in writing.
There's no way he's going to testify under oath. He said, if my attorneys give me the go-ahead. So he left a trap door that was wide open. And what happens next is one theory that the leak actually came from Trump's lawyers, either Ty Cobb or even Donald McGahn, because they wanted to get this out there so he couldn't lie about this. And so they were helping him avoid one of many perjury traps. I mean, Donald Trump is pathologically incapable of telling a single truth over a period of time. So he's just a walking attraction for perjury charges.
Well, he said he'd get tax reform done, to his credit.
Well, we haven't seen the tax returns yet, though.
Okay, well, all right, that's fair enough.
Wait
Clarence,
for that.
what do you think, Clarence? What's going on?
Well, I think that it is indeed true that Mr. Trump has a problem with being able to sustain factual testimony for very long. We saw that in an earlier trial in which with Tim O'Brien, the biographer who he had sued, he performed terribly on the stand there by all indications, and the same thing would happen this time. And so it's going to be interesting to see, because he has already shown so much behavior that looks like obstruction of justice that it seems almost inevitable.
I want to ask you something else as well. What happens if he fires Mr. Mueller? What happens with the Republicans in Congress? Is that a crunch?
They're going to be in a bind, because that's the.
Well, what do you think they're going to do?
Line,
are they going to act alongside Democrats there, or are they going to say no?
He can't fire him. He's got the deputy attorney general have to fire him. He would quit, then his deputy, she would quit. He's not going to do it unless he's out of control over there in the White House, quite frankly.
Well, that's always a possibility.
Mr. Hashmi?
If I am Donald Trump and I am if I am anyone who is in the White House, it would be very hard for me to not set my hair on fire if Donald Trump were to testify under oath. The fact that this is even a conversation is giving legitimacy to Special Counsel Robert Mueller's probe, which is the exact thing he's been trying to get away from and trying to dismiss as complete nonsense and a political witch hunt.
Tom, look, there's no collusion. They haven't found any in 18 months. So what they're looking at is obstruction of justice. But their items in that are things like the firing of Comey, which is looking better and better from Trump's point of view. And as long as there's not some minutia, something where he tells somebody to go tell a lie, this obstruction of justice thing, given the fact that Mueller's investigation is so controversial, divisive, people don't believe in it, I think as long as Trump avoids sitting down in this perjury trap, I think he's looking pretty good.
Some people don't believe in it because of an active effort on the part of Republicans to undermine the FBI and undermine Mr. Mueller. But I think if you talk to Republicans on the Hill, they're very nervous about what's what could happen. The Saturday Night Massacre still echoes even in the minds of people who weren't alive then. And if that should go forth, it would be curtains for the administration. And you now have the Democrats trying to get legislation that would tie Trump's hands so that to protect Mueller. And they're attempting to tie that into the budget deal that comes up in another 10 days. So it's an active topic on Capitol Hill, and you're going to have some Republicans, most Republicans actually think Mueller, who's a registered Republican, is a good guy, is going to do a fair job.
Well,
they don't want to go after him.
You shouldn't fire him.
Right.
That's
a collective
right.
You know who he should fire, though, is Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who's done next to nothing for his administration. It's probably hurt the administration more. And if you're trying to take control of the DOJ, getting someone else besides Sessions who is more loyal to the
He's already recused himself from the Russia investigation.
And that's the biggest fault of him.
And that's why Trump would like to fire him now.
He's in the campaign. He's got to recuse himself in an investigation of the campaign. He had no other choice.
Well, I agree with Pat to the extent I think criminal obstruction of justice is going to be a tough thing for Mueller to prove. So what does he do with the evidence when he finally comes up with it? I don't think he's going to indict the president. I mean, even if he has the goods, that's difficult.
He might try an unindicted co-conspirator thing or send it off to the House.
Right.
But the House isn't going to do anything.
So it's not the
so
slam
Trump is
dunk that a lot of
as
people...
long as he doesn't, say, come on over, Mr. Mueller, and
Pat, but there's something that I'm sure is on the lips of every viewer here, and that is, what does Mr. Pat Buchanan think about Stormy Daniels?
Stormy Daniels, I think she ranks right up there with Jennifer Flowers.
Okay, well, that's a good answer. All right, let's go on to another issue.
A lot of Jennifer Flowers fans would disagree, but anyway.
Issue 2, Donald goes to Davos.
We have the same ideas, the same ideals, and there's nothing that would happen to you. We won't be there to fight for you. You know that.
Meeting with the British Prime Minister at the Davos summit in Switzerland this week, President Trump lauded strong alliances and international cooperation. Yet the Davos summit is an unusual setting for the self-described America First president. After all, Davos has long been regarded as the world's foremost citadel of globalism, as the purveyor of free trade, international institutions, and powerful elites, all of which Mr. Trump aggressively condemned in his 2016 presidential campaign. But perhaps seeking to balance out the Davos loving, Mr. Trump this week also introduced trade tariffs on foreign manufactured washing machines and solar-powered equipment.
Question, and I'm going to give you on, Pat, why does Mr. Trump go to Davos and then in the same week announce these tariffs? Surely there's an incongruence there.
No, I think, look, this is ideal. It's an adversary proceeding over there. Everybody's waiting for him to get into the arena. Frankly, the fact that he does these tariffs is a good thing. It tells the folks at home, I'm sticking with the America First. We're going to take care of our own businesses. Then he goes over there in this forum. I think the forum was a great success. You get a little sharp tension there, and it's great theater.
And the tariffs are not, they're not big time. Al Gore even said that the administration, right, exactly. And Trump loved it over there. I mean, this is a bunch of people who snubbed him as a businessman, and now he goes over there and he's the king of the walk. New sheriff in town. You got to treat America better. I agree it was a good event for him, and I think they're not quite as scared of him as they were a year ago. So that's progress.
My highlight, though, was when he was booed for attacking the media once again with the standard boilerplate.
Well, it was quite subdued booing, though, don't you think?
Well, of course, Davos, for heaven's sake. This is not WWE.
Swiss, yes, okay, fair enough.
By their standards, this was a disruption.
Yeah. Okay, and we're going to continue, sorry.
No,
and do you think we're going to see more tariffs, though? I mean, do you think this is the Trump America?
You got the NAFTA problem is going to be coming up. That's going to be big.
And how much of this, though, is about consolidating that base in terms of what are you doing, Mr. President, on amnesty?
Well, look, in consolidating the base, immigration is number one. But look, he's going to have to get rid of these trade deficits. They're back up to about $800 billion, big with China. And the big issue, I think, is going to be NAFTA, what he does with that.
He's not going to get money for the wall out of Mexico.
No, all you need is a 2% tariff, and you got all on Mexico, and you get all the money you need for the wall.
Whoa.
This is
still a waste of
What do
money.
you think,
though.
Mr.
This is
Hashmi?
the type of protectionism, while it's good for Trump's base who are looking to protect American interests, this is the type of protectionism that hurts the free market in terms of raising prices on Whirlpool and any other washing machines, as well as solar panels. Solar panels, which by the way aren't used by everyone, but everybody uses a washing machine. And this is going to be one of those things that might hurt Americans later, but is good, I guess, for that particular brand of Whirlpool. It's the type of the stuff that we accuse the Obama administration with Solyndra and picking winners and losers.
Look, here's the idea. The whole idea here is to raise tariffs on products coming into the country and use all the capital to cut taxes on producers in the United States.
Yeah, but you're going to use
it's
those
how
tax
this
cuts,
country was
but
built.
those tax cuts are mostly going to go into paying for a washing machine than they are going to be used for anything else.
No, look, he already has cut the taxes on corporations down from 35 to 21. He ought to cut it to 15. You'll have companies coming into the United States. Yeah, initially you pay higher prices for your goods. How do you think this country was built from 1865 to 1914?
But there is a limit, though, Pat. There is a limit. You don't want to strain things too much, or you will have a trade war breaking out.
You don't want to drive foreign products out of the market. But when they come in, they should carry taxes on them.
The solar industry is a hot industry right now. There are more people working in the solar industry than in coal mining.
Thank you.
But how many of those jobs are driven by the market and
But
not
the Chinese
subsidies?
have stolen.
Even the coal miners.
But the Chinese
coal
have
miners know
stolen
that
the
their
solar
industry's on the-
industry from the United States in a lot of ways, and we ought to get it back. Why not?
Because that's a little. The horse has left the barn.
I think the
Let's put it that
Chinese
We're
way.
going to get
stolen-
the horse back.
All right. The Chinese, I think, have stolen a lot of things, intellectual property. But anyway, exit question. Are these tariffs good news or bad news for the American consumer? I'm going to go with you, Pat, first.
Well, I think they're going to raise
Good
the
or bad?
prices. Good overall.
Well, they're bad news for the consumer, but it's not as damaging as Trump's rhetoric would have suggested.
And Clarence?
Right. It's not as bad as it could be. Pat wants to raise the tariffs even more and lower the barriers even more.
I never thought Eleanor would be pro-free market. I think it's a bad thing.
Oh, Eleanor's a good centre-left.
Surprise.
I have another question here. Do you think we're going to see more tariffs in the next 2 months announced?
Sure, you're going to see more tariffs for 4 years.
Okay, Eleanor?
Well, he's promising more. He's talking about on steel, I know. I think he will deliver. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he will push for it, but
Okay.
I think
More tariffs.
Quick, more tariffs. All right.
Okay,
When we come back, Planet of the Clones, which is my title, it's a beautiful one, and War of the Stores. And for unique, amazing, insightful, original content, please make sure to visit our Twitter page at McLaughlin Group and our website, McLaughlin.com. Notice I didn't include the www there.
you're learning.
When I grow up, I want to make cars fly, soaring through the air like a rocket.
We all grow up, but you might say my head's still in the clouds. Because at Coke, my team and I dream up new technologies to make cars more aerodynamic, which improves fuel economy. It's a challenge, but this is what I was born to do.
Issue 3, Planet of the Clones.
If you think that Hua Hua and Zong Zong look like two normal long-tailed macaws, think again. Because these two monkeys are genetically identical, having been cloned late last year by Chinese researchers. Led by Drs. Qiang Sun and Moming Pu, the cloning effort intends to advance human understanding of how diseases like cancer might more effectively be cured. But while some celebrated this week's publication of the cloning research, others are worried about a slippery slope towards human cloning.
Okay, I'm going to go to Siraj on this one as the Pakistani-American James Bond and someone whose outfit would suggest you might be a clone. Is there a danger here in terms of a move towards human cloning, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I actually am a science major from college, and I was going to go into medical school, so I love science.
And your father is
And my father is a cardiothoracic surgeon, so science runs in the family, but when it comes to human cloning, we may have protections within the United States to prevent that from happening, but we have no control what happens abroad. And in China, where they're trying to practice cloning monkeys, that's something an area of concern. And while we should advance science as much as we possibly can, you know, where do we draw the line?
No, these are primates, and it's really an advancement. But I agree 100%. You're talking about Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. You create alphas and epsilons and other, limited creatures and others to do different roles. And I think this is a real jump. There's no question about it, and I agree 100%.
Well, it does open the door to cloning. Everybody recoils at the idea for human reproduction, but it opens the door for more research. But it's been more than 20 years since Dolly the sheep, and hundreds of sheep had to die before Dolly was created. This is not a simple procedure, and if you're talking about human clones, hundreds of women would have to die, and fetuses would have to die, and certainly we're not going to do that in this country, and I think there are real scientific barriers to that kind of work, even in China, where they have less regard for the ethical implications.
That's true, but over time, scientific barriers fall.
Right.
And I can't help but wonder, maybe not in our lifetimes, but which will be a big problem first, cloning or artificial intelligence? Both of these are situations with the biggest benefits now.
In vitro fertilization was very controversial when it first appeared on the scene. Now it's considered perfectly normal. So I agree with you.
Siraj,
time changes.
I want to ask, do you think, our generation is, one of the issues here is, as much as the morality of not doing this perhaps is the consensus in the West, once if it gets to a point in China where it's credible, right, and medical technologies come through that, then do you think we're going to see it? I would suspect some American consumers might do some medical tourism to kind of, get these organs, for example.
Right. I think we'd probably be moving towards, the island.
And it's a slippery slope.
It's absolutely a slippery slope. I mean, we're looking towards where do we draw the ethical standard for scientists who are trying to justify their research by saying, oh, we're looking into cancer. There has been cancer not just cancer screens, but experiments and research studies focusing on cancer that don't involve clones.
Yeah, but when you're talking morality and ethics, the American people do not have the same common denominator they used to have. There's been a real social, moral conflict in society. And there's a lot of folks here that probably would agree with what the Chinese are doing. Others would say this is horrendous. You're moving there. But eventually, I agree with Clarence. I think, down the road, they're going to be doing it.
But let me ask you very quickly, Pat, do you think this could be a cause for a sort of social conservative reawakening in America?
No, I don't. No, I don't. Look, the culture wars are moving against folks that agree with me.
Yeah, but what's unclear is what is the scientific medical benefit that they're actually looking for. I mean, that's unclear.
But
we had a big fight in this country.
Recreate billionaires.
Well, we had a big fight in this country about embryonic cells. You can't even use embryos that are not fertilized, that are discarded. So I think sometimes
that's the people, pro-life people against the non-pro-life people. That's the argument, and you'll get the same one on this.
An unfertilized embryo is not the same as a fertilized embryo. And a fertilized embryo left in a tank for years is a different matter, too.
When you're talking about organ markets, you've got pro-life people on both sides. If you're going to use it to save somebody's life who's losing their kidneys, losing their liver, that's where the debate really gets intense.
Okay. All right, we have an exit question on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the importance of wearing a spacesuit in space. If you do not, you will die. And 1 being Russia's level of commitment to UN sanctions on North Korea. How likely are we to see a human clone in the next 20 years, Pat?
You're going to see attempts at it before 20
what
years
number?
are up.
5?
I think it's highly probable.
Okay.
No, I say highly improbable.
Okay, Clarence?
I like that highly probable. I go along with that.
And sorry for interrupting you.
No problem.
Okay.
I actually say an 11. I think the Overton window moving towards...
An 11 out of 10?
An 11 out of 10.
That doesn't make sense.
With utmost certainty they're going to attempt to do it. And I think it's going to happen. I think someone's going to try to play God, and they're going to... They want that control.
I agree. I say it's a 9, which is less than 11. Anyway, issue 4, store wars.
Over the past 2 weeks, retail giants Amazon and Walmart have released new commercials outlining their internet ordering systems. And beyond the commercials, Amazon and Walmart are paying increasingly close attention to each other's item and shipping prices, frequently changing their costs to remain competitive. But some are concerned. They point to the mass scale at which these companies operate and the potential barriers to entry or expansion for smaller competitors. They also worry about increasing automation. As an example, just this week, Amazon opened its first entirely automated grocery store.
Question, Clarence. I mean, is this, what are the social ramifications of this?
Well, we're right on the brink of having robot consumers, and then we can just cut humans out of the whole cycle. I'm just astounded. I mean, I can't even get my head around these automatic cars.
Yeah.
You know, driver-free car, whatever. Yeah. Driverless cars. Now we're going to have a clerkless Walmart.
Well, what about the job implications of it, right?
Job implications, obviously, in the short term, certainly job loss. Right. I don't know, maybe jobs will be created in the long run. That's what we hope for, dynamic destruction or creative destruction. Yes,
right?
We hope that will happen in the long run, but nothing is guaranteed.
Well, the marriage of Amazon and Whole Foods just offers the kind of takes over the world for a certain class of consumers. This automated store is only for Amazon employees, right?
At the moment.
At the moment, yes. And it's amazing because you buy your stuff, if you change your mind, you put it back, it's all tabulated on your credit card, and you walk out of there with
But of course, Amazon bought Whole Foods.
Right.
So there's
well, exactly. And some Whole Foods now have lockers that you can, I guess, rent. So when your Amazon packages arrive, they're not on your stoop where they could be stolen. So it's kind of full-service consumerism, but taking down a lot of jobs. We really need to rethink the whole nature of work.
Yeah, but you know, it's going to continue. The free market is a mighty engine, but it really is destructive of the ideas of communities. A lot of folks, I'm sure, Clarence, we grew up, you went down to the neighborhood store, you had the movie theater, pharmacy, and all these other things. And so it's a real force in unleash free markets, break down societies and break down countries, but it's unstoppable.
My father had a deli. And when the supermarkets arrived, he said they'll never last because people want service. People want cheaper prices.
Siraj's turn. Siraj's turn.
Two things. You lose social interaction in an age when people can't stop looking at their cell phones. They're texting, they're tweeting, and they're Facebooking to try to get social interaction. And two, you're losing the value of money. People who are using credit cards have no sense of what the value of money is. If you create a system where you just pick something up and you're already buying it, what is that teaching the next generation about the value of money? They'll have no concept of the paper value.
Oh, they'll know when that bill arrives.
They'll find out real fast.
Pretty fast.
And I think the issue here we have here is that when it's that premium between community, right, which is a social good people care about, but also that moment of choice. Click, it's cheaper. Sure. I mean, this individual. It's about trade as well, right? That's the same kind of ideas of individual.
You can't stop this. This machine's more like the cloning thing. You can't stop it. It's going to go forward. People are going to try, and people are making big money by getting rid of workers
and Tom's the last
replacing them with machines.
Tom's the last person who should be talking about the value of money, and because all I do is get sandwiches for you at work.
I pay you back. You are a disgusting individual. All right, Eleanor. Now, do you think, though, as this dimension of the globalist companies, the sort of big market things continues to grow, there might be a union between left and right here in terms of worker protections?
Oh, I would love to see that, because all of these, what I would consider these white hat companies, Amazon, Apple, Google, we're learning that there's kind of a dark side to the big social media companies.
This is what populism and nationalism are rising up against, all these trends. People want to remain who and what they are and what they believes, and not have these transnational.
So we should expect Trump tweets about Amazon?
No, you should expect a reaction continually against these kinds of trends.
The trouble is the convenience just trumps everything, triumphs.
Okay. All right, we have to go.
Uber treats its people awful, but everybody uses
But it's
Uber.
cheap. And
right.
Anyway, we will be right back with predictions.
I want to make cars fly. I love turning old stuff into something amazing. I want to plant a garden for the whole world.
We grow up, but we never stop dreaming. Here at Coke, we challenge ourselves and the status quo to produce innovations like renewable fuel, more energy-efficient vehicles, and food for all. Because what drives us most is challenge itself.
When I was a freshman in college, I lost my brother Brian to suicide. Brian had been a very successful college student himself who was president of an a cappella group, sports editor of a newspaper, 3.8 GPA at an Ivy League university. Brian eventually went and sought help in his senior year. The hopelessness and the helplessness that accompanies depression had gotten to him, and had gotten to him so strong that just about a year later, in my freshman year of college, Brian died by suicide.
When I grow up, I want to make cars fly, soaring through the air like a rocket.
We all grow up, but you might say my head's still in the clouds. Because at Coke, my team and I dream up new technologies to make cars more aerodynamic, which improves fuel economy. It's a challenge, but this is what I was born to do.
Pat, predictions.
Turks have crashed into Syria, and they say they're going to move against the Kurds all along the northern Syria border. They'll be in direct conflict with the United States in some way or other this week.
You nailed that one last week. Eleanor.
When President Trump delivers his State of the Union speech on Tuesday, Democrats will show admirable restraint and not shout out, you lie, the way Congressman that's right, the way Congressman Joe Wilson did once during an Obama speech.
With regards to the DACA deal, I can see something actually happen that doesn't involve a government shutdown. It will splinter Trump's base, but eventually it'll come back into the
Give us a quick idea of what this majestic something is.
I think the 1.8 million figure of undocumented immigrants is going to come lower, and I think you'll probably see more deal making.
Okay, Clarence?
I predict Bernie Sanders is going to run for president again, unless somebody among the prospective candidates on the Democratic side that comes closer to his way of thinking. He's going to jump into it again. That's my.
And you think he secures the nomination?
I'm sorry?
He secures the nomination?
I'm not going to say he's going to get the nomination. I think his appeal is overrated in that regard, but he can have a big impact.
Okay. I predict that President Trump will fire Special Counsel Muller by May 1st. I think Trump can't resist doing that. And here's a random fact. 471 years ago today, Henry VIII died a very angry and rather large man, a rotund man. He was interred in St. George's Chapel, Windsor Castle, where Meghan Markle and Prince Harry will marry later this year, and the cycle of British history continues. Anyway, thank you, panelists, for a fun discussion. We got a lot of interesting issues there, monkeys and Trump and various things in between. And we hope that you will join.
That's disrespectful.
What's in between?
Thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll be back with us next week. Follow us on Twitter at McLaughlin Group, and please visit our webpage at McLaughlin.com. Bye-bye.